Hi everybody, welcome back to the channel. Welcome to Airbrushing Your Fluffy Friend. You may like an eggshell finish or you may like your fluffy friend. Oh, that's another video. We'll do that one another time. We're airbrushing a dog today. Nice and simple, black and white or monotone, whatever colour you want to do it in a monotone. Pet, sort of leaning out of a car. Now I'm going to go around this one a little bit different because you usually see on my step-by-steps I'm projecting the image up. So I'm going to take you the old school way. I've printed the actual image out onto A4 and then flipped it over, and I've covered the back in pastel. Pastel's really good for doing on the back of the paper for transferring your image. This is sort of new to me, using pastel. I'd usually use a pencil and go over the back with a pencil, but a pastel is a lot quicker. The ones that I've used are the Daily Rowney set. Really nice pastel set there to use. You get your different colours, so if you was doing a portrait with like real soft flesh tones, you could use the pink pastel over the back of your paper and you'll transfer soft pink lines down. This one will transfer black lines down, nice and easy. So project it out, print it out. I'm so hooked on using the projector. Print it out, pastel the back like that, place that, locate it to your piece of paper over the top with some masking tape. So you flip it up and you've got that. And all you'll do now is lay it down, put a couple more pieces here and pin it in place. Get a hard point pencil, something with a hard tip, nice and sharp. And then go round your image and trace around it like that. Go round all the image, draw all the bits in. And then when you lift this up, you will transfer all your line work down to your piece of paper. So it's a nice way of getting your image across. And then you can move this to the side here, or leave it like this and use it as a flip down as you paint, or put it to the side. I'll be placing this to the side because I'm used to working with a reference image to the side of me and just looking across and painting that way. So do that. That's how you get your image across. Once you've got your line work down, we're going to use some Pro Mask because we've got some sharp edges around here on the actual car. So again, you're going to be pulling your Pro Mask off your piece of paper like that, off the backing, and then laying it over the top. You can literally offer the Pro Mask up like that and place it, and it will just sort of cling to your paper. And then wipe it down with your fingertips, and that will be your Pro Mask on. Once you've got your Pro Mask on, you will see your line work through it because that masking film is translucent. That's what makes it really good to work with. It's very easy to cut as well. So cutting this, I recommend a decent scalpel. The one that I'm using is this one here. There's going to be a link in the video description to these guys. They're really good. They're very balanced in weight, very nice. They're heavy to the front and very light to the back. So when you cut the Pro Mask with this, you've hardly got to press down because the weight of the actual tool will be enough pressure to go through it. So you're going to see your line work. And basically you're going to be cutting round the dog. So cut the dog out and then cut round the car here and probably along here like that. So then we can remove the part of the car here and the part of the car here, and that's the bit we're going to paint first. We're going to paint the car in, and your mask will be over the dog, so you're not going to worry about any overspray going over the centerpiece. And then when we come to paint the dog, you can replace these pieces. You can put them to one side. The best place to put the pieces that you take off is back onto the silicone paper that the Pro Mask comes on. You can just lay your pieces onto this, have that to the side of you, and then you can lift these off, place them back over your piece of paper, and then you can mask out the car and remove the inner where the dog is. And doing this, what it will do is it contains you in an area which is really good when you airbrush. You've not got to worry about overspray or smudging your surrounding piece of paper because it will keep it nice and clean, and it just brings you down and contains you in that little area where you're painting. And that's what I like about it. It makes your artwork a lot cleaner. It gives you your very sharp edges where you need them. You don't have to pro mask everything else, it'll look too sharp. You need some of the soft transitions there to make it look sort of realistic and make it look sort of like this, where you've got your sharps and there are a lot of soft edges on this as well. And that's what makes the picture, the soft and sharps and the shading, just brings it all together. Now when it comes to colour, you can use any colour, because we're doing it in a monotone. You could do a sepia version of this. I'm going to use a Payne's grey. You could use a black, thin down. Now the mix that I'm using is very thin. This is a 15 ml bottle. If you can see there, you can see how full that is. Now I went 20 drops of ink, which would bring that right down to about 4 ml up the bottle. And the rest is isopropanol, straight isopropanol with the FW ink, straight in. 2 ball bearing shakers in there, and that is a very thin mix. Now I'll be thinning this again. I'll be doing something like 2 drops of this and then filling the cup up with ISO again. So it's really, really washed out. And that's how you can get that transparent look with your paint. So it goes down to near enough like a very washed out watercolour. What you can do is you can work out in the washed colour tone first, and then if you want to darken it, you just go back to your original mix and just start to add your original mix, and it'll start to darken that tone up. So you can get through your values that way with one paint. So that's the paint we're using. The brush, I'm using the Evo. Now this Evo's been changed. I've got the Infinity titanium nozzle in this with the 028 needle, and I've put the micro cup on it. The reason why I put the micro cup on is because I'm using minimal drops of paint. It gives you more visibility, especially when you're looking at your brush and your artwork, because you will tend to spray to the side. If you're left or right handed, you always go into the side like that and spray like this. The reason you paint on an angle is because you're looking here and you're looking down at your needle, the tip of your needle. You won't be painting square on like this because you can't see the front of your brush. You'd have to be looking over it like that to see what your needle and how close it is to the paper. That's why you always see airbrushes paint to the side. So you'll be painting like that or like that if you're left or right handed, because you're looking down here at what you're doing. So micro cut will give you that little bit more visibility here when you're looking over. Side cups are great because they sit down out the way of the brush. You get full visibility. Or the ones with the scallops in the top, you get full visibility. So micro cup on the Evo, really nice because we're using minimal paint. Lovely trigger on this. The springs absolutely bang on tension. It's a perfectly set up brush, but I've just changed the cup and I've put the titanium nozzle out the new Infinity with the 028. And with that, it gives you a little stubby needle point coming out the front. So you get a lot less tip dry because you've not got a lot of needle coming out the front to gather paint. So that's why I've set this brush up like this today, and it gets amazing down on detail, guys. This brush, I've just hit clean my name 1 mil letters on that one just there where my finger is. I hope the camera's picking that up, but I've measured that and that's clean 1 mil, down to 1 millimeter, clean writing with that mix. And that's what you're going to hit with this brush on what it can do if you get your paint consistency right. And that's running 20 psi, 22 psi on the main line. It likes a little bit of air to sort of get that paint out. If you go run too low, it's sort of you're going a little bit further back on the trigger, but just bring that pressure up slightly, very thin paint, and you can just do it so you're just touching. You literally just pulsing the top of the trigger and that paint flows absolutely bang on. What you're aiming for with your brush when you're working on very small portraits like this, where it's very tight detail, is some triggers, if the air pressure is not up there, it's going back in and you're finding that sort of millimetre, under that millimetre movement. you want that paint release on that under a millimetre. So it's like you're just pressing down. You're not pulling back at all. You're not going down for air, back for paint. You're literally just moving down. And the way the X centres are designed on the Infinity and the Evo and things like that, whereas you start to press down, it starts to engage, and it starts to just sort of engage the needle and move back. So you're hitting it on that release point with very thin paint. And that's when you get these brushes to perform at their absolute best. Especially on the detail, what they can achieve is just incredible. It really is. So the brush is set up. That's my paint mix. If you're using FW, give it a go. Another reason why I like using ISO is when you spray it, isopropanol evaporates. If you've ever wiped isopropanol on something and then you stand back and just put your air on it, you'll see it evaporate very quick. So it flashes the ink out very fast. So when it hits the paper with your air going over it, it's drying instantly. You're not going to get spidering, and that's why you can run this and get a great release on the ink at about 22, 23 psi. You sort of just hit it and it goes straight down to the paper, flashes off, and you can continue painting. So you can hit the very tiny details like I did on the 1mm letters with no spidering. Nice and clean. If you was doing that with Createx Illustration with their reducers tend to keep the body of the paint open, sort of wet, and it will take, like, say it takes a minute to flash off and dry out. Gives you that working time. Using ISO, there's no working time. It's bang, down, let's crack on, because you're sketching this. You'll see me sort of just flitting around sketching this down and building it up light to dark, and that's how I go about it, using that type of paint mix. So I'll get this penciled across, I'll get the masking put on and cut out, and I'll see you in that stage when we're ready to paint. Right guys, we are ready to make a start. Now you can see I've penciled it out and I've chopped the dog out and left this piece. All my other pieces are here. So you've got the bottom piece, the windows, and the bits of the trim. So you're left with that. You can cut out more. If you wanted to get these really straight here and round sort of here, you can cut them bits out, but we're just going to use shields to get around them bits. So I've got a thin mix and I'm just going to start to drop some tones in over this edge here. Nice and light, backing off with the brush around 2 to 3 inches away. Minimal trigger, just sort of on and off the trigger. To sharpen things up, get yourself a straight edge. Put it up to your paper. You can see how light this paint is. I'm just dusting over. Just putting a tone across all that, because we are going to go darker. Shield off this. Like that. Onto the seat, the headrest. Just do a pass across the top. Little pass in there. Working closer now. So as you go closer, it's going to go darker. And this is the thinned out mix. Like that. Let's get some textures in here. So I'm just sort of on and off the trigger, creating little dot patterns to give it a little bit of texture in this headrest. I'm about 20 mil to 30 mil away from the paper. I'm just pulsing the trigger literally not even moving back because the paint's really thin. Just creating a little pattern in that. Like that. Across the top edge. Just look at your reference, just shade it to the best you can see it. Put some little lines in, little textures, and just start to build up on them dot passes. Just slightly moving back with the brush. So going from close, moving back, it'll give you a wider spray pattern hitting the paper. Like that. Darker to the bottom. Like that. Moving on to this little sort of bracket on top of the headrest, just line that out. Like that. You can get your shield if you want to sharpen the edge of that headrest up. Just work around with your shield like that. And that will sharpen that up. Moving on to the bottom part of the seat, you're doing the same thing. You're lining out. I think I'm out of paint. I am. Drop a little bit more paint in. It's the beauty of working with the micro cut. You can use very little paint. Little dots again. Just create a little texture, similar to what you've done on the headrest. It's a little bit darker on this one at the bottom. And then a straight edge to the bottom. Hold your shield up. Do the same sort of pass. Little dots again. A little bit coming off the side. Like that. You've got a straight edge here. Like that. Straight edge there. Like that. A little bit down here. And start to darken this one out. You can use a shield for this bit if you want. I'm just going to go in freehand. Like that. A little bit darker on this pass here. A little bit darker under here. Like that. Like that. Darken the bottom of that seat off. Like that. So that's that piece in. We've got darker to go here. We've got a line in here. Just going to do a tone over that, separate it. And then this piece, we can just shield that off around there. Just work around with your shields and just make sure you level it up and sort of spray half on your shield, half off, so you're sort of aiming to get a bit of paint on the shield as you paint. Block that in. You'll find with the ISO when you spray it, it'll go down dark, and then when it dries, it sort of, it lightens up a bit. So just build it up. We're out of paint. You're probably getting around about 10 drops in there. But you've just got no cup in the way. You're not getting reflections off the cup from your light. You can see what you're doing. Just makes it nice to work with. Just going to line this. Don't worry about not hitting your lines perfect. I'm not. Just fill that in there. Do a little bit more coming across there. A little bit darker here. And that'll do for that top of the car. We can go in a bit and we can erase the lines and go over with the darker tones in the next pass. Move on to this little gap underneath his sort of body and his leg coming down. Shield. This is quite dark here, so you just literally go in and do a full pass and shade that in. This piece again, you can hold a shield. I'm just going to dust over this. And just give that a full pass of paint, like that. Same again, hold a shield up, just go for a full pass, tinting it right down. Like that. And you can shield that way, shield off this way, block that in. Next piece, a little bit of paint there, do some darks in here. Highlights we can punch out later on, not got to worry about the highlights. Like that, do a little bit there. Just going in light. This piece under the door is like a trim. Hold your shield that side. Just going to do a dust of paint. I'm going to dust it all the way down the side of this car edge here. Like that. Same here. Hold it there like that. Just do a dust line coming along. Like that. A little bit further down with this one. Give it a tone coming down the car body. Next line down is darker. Shield again. You can hold that to sharpen it up. Like that. And just go over that and make it darker. Don't worry about going over your lines, this is light. I'm going to be darkening things off later. back part of the car here. Just do a few passes. You've got your line coming through your door handle here, across the tips of his claws. Literally just going to do a pass straight across like that. Shield one below, like that. A little bit coming down the door. Door handle. Just going to line that out. A little bit of shading across it. Bit underneath, the dark piece underneath. Fill that in. I'm just going to do a dusting round that. I'm going to put a tone in because you've got a highlight there, so just put a darker tone below the door handle and feather it out that way and that way. Because then we can pop the highlight in after. Back onto this line here, just darken this out. Like that. Up to this, we're going to drop a little tone in on there. Going to tone it over it, over the top of it. As I say, highlights we can punch out later. Down that there. A little bit darker on this here. Around his claws. Go a little bit darker again in that crease. Just a little bit more tone off that door handle. Like that. Got a dark in here, so you can come across his paws here into the leg here. So go from starting in here, start your paint off in here because this is really dark shadow, so you can start there and finish your stroke on the mask in here. Like that. Work it across. Fill that bit in there. A little bit coming this way. Got a drop shadow under his paws. That can go dark. Drop shadow there. Fill that one in there. Like that. Line that bottom bit out. Like that. Start darkening this one off here. Give this a bit more of a tone. In the middle of his leg there, underneath that piece there. Darken that out. Like that. Go a little bit darker on that. You're just going round now, you've got it all in place. Look at your reference and just start to darken things out. Like that. Shield bits off where you need to. Dark there. Shield that off. Like that. out of paint. Dark in here. A dark line coming down here. Dust a bit in there. Goes a little bit dark. I'm just going to darken that off there. And that piece. Just going to do a darker tone here. A bit of a line in. Darken this off, just give it a pass. A bit down there. Like that. Darken it out. Little line there. More on the seat, and it's sort of built up nice and quick. Now I'm just going to go in and lose some of these lines, and you will take a little bit of paint off, but it's not a bad thing. Like that. Just knocks them back a bit. Like that. Right, I'm going to get the first darker mix, because I've done a bottle off camera and just put 2 drops in and really thin the ISO out. So that was a real thinner mix. This one's a little bit darker. So again, just going round again, darkening things off. Like that. Got a little bit in there. We'll sharpen that one up. Like that. Just punch it out a bit. Same with that edge there, just sharpen it up. Down this back bit here. Punch that out a bit, darken it, set it back. Along here, do a tone in there. Darken it, darken that bit there. Darken that bit there. Like that. This line we can just punch that out a bit. Drop shadow, just set that back. Punch that line out. I'm not worried about overspill going up, because we're going to punch the highlights out in a minute. Darken that out. Same here. Feather and darken that to the back. Under his claws, darker. The handle. And then round that handle. we can punch that out with a little bit of a shield. Going round that. Punch that out a bit. Fade that off and down away from that. Back off with your brush. You want to fade out, just back off with your brush. It'll give you a wider pattern. A little bit across the handles. Like that. A little bit more shade in there. Darker under there, a little bit of shade in there, a bit down the door, like that. We'll do a little bit over the edge of that roof, just spray onto your mask. Going to go a bit more down the window. Bit onto the glass, darker in here, overlap, filling something in, just overlap it 50-50, like you would with a spray gun, putting your base coats down and things, just sort of overlap and build it up. That's that bit filled in. Ooh, shaky line. Let's go over again. Straighten it up. Like that. Just sharpen this up. Reline it. Like that, and that'll do for the car. We can just go in with an eraser, just bring these highlights out a bit here. That'll punch them out a bit here. A little bit here. You can do that with the eraser, or you can just go in with a pencil and just line bits out like that. Just punch little bits out where you need them. Like that. Caran d'Ache pencils are great for this. Just adding that little bit where you need it. Them little bits. We can go darker on this seat. Needs to go a little bit darker. go back over again and just darken that out. Like that, and reline the bottom. This is the beauty of building it up light. You're not walloping the paint down straight away. So you can work around in a light tone and just keep looking across at your reference, go, yeah, I need to go a little bit more there. You need to add a little bit more there. It's only until you start to punch your highlights out then you realise how much darker you've really got to go. Shield, I'm not hitting my line work today. A little bit wavy. Like that. And you just keep punching bits out and setting bits back. Tint that back a bit there. Like that. So we've got the car bit in. You could add more and more to this. You've got lines in here that you could add in. You can go in with your pencils and just start to punch things out a bit. You ain't got to do it all with the airbrush. You really haven't. A little more into that pool. Always check to the side. If you're refilling your brush, just double check to the side. Give it a spray. You probably see me do this all the time before I go in. Just do that. That will just clear. I'm not blasting any paint out. I'd probably do like a tip dry check and just do that just to clear anything that's probably near the nozzle before you paint. Actually, you'll only splatter it across. I think that will do for the edge of the, and for the car. I think that'll do. Just line. I think that'll do. Right, what we can do now is get your masking and place your masking pieces back on. So we're going to cover the side of the dog again and just butt it up to the mask that's already there. You sort of just slide it up to it. You've not really got to press down. Like that. Bit around near his paws. Like that. Put these little strips back on. Just put the pieces back on. If you get small pieces of masking that you're trying to put back on, stick it to your scalpel like that, and then you can locate it a little bit easier. Like that. Now we can remove the inner. Move the dog out of the way, and you can place that back on there. You can save it, not a problem. So if you do need to do any more on the background, you can put that piece back in and take the other bits away, and then add. You can always add. When you go in light, you can always add. If you go too dark, you can't add. Going to give the brush a clean out, because we've been working quite a bit of paint, so give it a little clean. Cotton bud, back bubble. Little blast through. I'm going to go back in with the watered down mix. Right, I'm going to go straight in up to the eyes and just start to work round the eye. And I'm starting in all the dark crease areas. Just going in on them crease areas, and I'm doing like a little jagged line coming off the creases. Just building it up. Just following them little lines, crease lines, doing them little jagged passes. So you're basically putting your paint down. I'll show you sort of here. You're doing a little line and just doing that, backwards and forwards. And creating a little jagged pass. Some little tiny little lines in here. Little dot textures. Working around this bit. Rub it in. Little lines. Coming down here. Some little dot work. Around here. I'm just working up close. Going back over again, building it up. Like that. Little passes again, little dot lines. Like that. Back over the eye. Darkening things out. This is the beauty of this brush. Once you get that paint dialed in, you can sit, this brush will sit right up close. You can just work with it, no issues. And I'm not even moving back on the trigger, I'm literally just pushing down. And I've got paint release, so I'm just bouncing off the air. And that's how you want a brush to work. You're just working around in this light tone and just sketching it out, building it up. Check for tip dry, you'll know when you get it. And we've worked that sort of bit there. I've had no tip dry up until that point. So working with the ISO is nice to work with. Little passes there. just sitting on it. Literally, you're just nudging the trigger down and squiggling around with the brush. It's not hard once you get your paint coming out the front. You're just moving the brush around. You're not moving the trigger. You literally get your paint on and then you just move with the brush. Pigeons around. You just go in and start to darken things out. Just keep building it up, building it up, building it up. Some little shading passes coming around. Literally drop a tone down there. Start to darken it. Like that. More and more little textures, but just going over again. Like that. Like that, and you see how it's coming together and it's sort of building up and building up. What I'm going to do is I'm going to pause you guys and I'm going to continue on, and you're basically working it like that. So you see how I work that? I'm going to work this coming down the same. Just going to work it like that, doing that sort of light pass, them type of jaggedy textures. And when you come down and sort following the body, if the textures go a certain way, go the same way. with the hair. So just do the jaggedy texture that way, or if you need to go sort of a half moon round, do the same and work it round and just follow it round. Minimal trigger, and you're just moving and squiggling with the brush and get it into that pass there. Then we can drop, I'll come back and we'll drop the next tone in and we'll work the next darker tone. And then work it up. And then finally, when you've got it worked right up, any of the hairs that you see, sort of like you see the white little tiny hairs that go into the black, you can bring them in once we get the next dark in and just punch them across and just drop them in with a pencil. So you can take the whites over into the darks to create little hairs and do it like that. So I'll see you in a bit. I'll get it to this stage here in this tone and I'll see you in a bit. Right guys, I've gone round and sort of worked it in that tone. Just going in now with a darker tone and just filling in the darker bits where I see them, where it needs to go darker, and adding little tiny dagger strokes, dots, darkening where I need to darken it. Just layering it up. Just little dots and things. You can just keep building this up and going in darker, punching bits back where you need it, them little darks. Keep building the tones up. You're just going over what you did and just building it up. Smoothing things out because you're working really close. Just start to fill it out like that. Put little creases in. Like that. And as I say, you can get your pencils and just flick into that dark blue. Like that. Just put some hairs going across. Like that, you can do a few little tiny little whiskers on there. It's coming across into the ears, like that. Like that. Just keep building it up. Pop some of the highlights out on the chain. Really nice to work up close and just build it up. Like that. What I'll do is I'll demask it. Nice and carefully when you demask it, guys, because you've been leaning on your work. So it can grab at the paper if you're not careful, because the sticky will get more sticky. You can drop that back on your silicone paper. Like that. And once you've got it all demasked, you can then just go in and tidy up bits. And erase bits and punch little bits out. Need be. You see the bits where I've got to go back round where the legs are and just drop shadow in. Here. Just darken some bits out. Put a little bit of a tone there. set things back a bit now. Tones under here, here. Darken some bits out. Darker pass in there. Tint it down a bit more, and we can go back in with the pencil and just cut into that way and that way. Give it some hair textures, just do some little it's coming off. Brighten that up a bit, just put a bit of a bright line in there. Give it a little bit brighten up. Bits on the tongue. Like that. this on the chain. Like that. I think that'll do. You could keep going in and toning it, but get it down in the one tone and then just build it up. Like that. So there you go, guys, we've got the bulldog coming out the car down. So if you just sort of follow them steps, pencil it in that way by using the pastel, it works great. You will find a little bit of pastel that will go over your paper, but you can rub it out on the areas where you've sort of leaned against it and it's just transferred a bit. Just use a soft eraser and rub it out. Put your Pro Mask on, cut it out as much as you want to. If you wanted to cut more of the car shape out, you can. I sort of cut that piece in there, masked out that bit, we cut the dog out and the lines here, and just used a straight shield going in. Worked two tones. I had the first mix that I showed you, and then I mixed another bottle with about 4 or 5 drops of this mix and just really thinned it out in this one with the ISO, and worked in the first sort of tone, sketching out, going round, doing the little textures, and then worked in the next tone. When I came back after that sort of, when I left you and I came back, I just started to work in the darks again. Work the darks, get your darks nice and dark where you need them, and then you can drop your highlights in either with a Caran d'Ache white pencil to give them little hair texture flicks coming across. So when you look at this really close, you'll just see them little tiny little hairs coming across. And you can work them in the top pieces here as well. Just put some little ones in, or you can use your paint pen, little dots, because to create them tiny little dagger strokes with white with the airbrush, you're just going to be battling with yourself. So just pencil or the paint pen, the FW paint pen, job done. Why stress trying to get everything down with the brush? Just do your main colour with a brush. The Evo with the titanium front end and the 028 in it works brilliant, guys. It really does. It gives you minimal needle exposure at the front. So tip dry was hardly any. You know, a quick check now and again, but it works brilliantly with that, with the titanium front end in it and the micro cup. Especially when you're working on small stuff like this, you've got more visibility. The trigger is brilliant. I think it's the best one in the H&S lineup. It really is, for comfort, softness. And when you get your paint dialed in with this, you're just pressing down. That's all you're doing is pressing down. And you can work right up close and just get all these little tight details in. So, I hope you enjoyed the video. I hope you picked up some bits along the way. Give it a go. Link is in the description, guys, to this image. And just have a play, you know. You're probably not going to get it straight away like that, but it gets you working down, and this will get you on your trigger. And this is what you need to master, is your trigger. Being able to hit minimal paint, being able to back off slightly with minimal paint to create a different texture like we did on the top of the seat there, the headrest, and working down on the seat. And you're just moving the brush in, getting tight details, backing away, getting a different style of detail, further away, softer, moving right in close, tiny little detail. And you're just doing your distance, and you're permanently working minimal trigger. So drop your comments, tell me your thoughts, and I will see you in the next one. Thanks for watching, guys. Cheers.